afternoon, everyone, to another exciting episode of BWHR Voices. Today, we have with us Mr. Liju Thomas, Director People Experience and Technology, Amazon India. We welcome you on board, sir. It's a pleasure for us to be speaking with you.
Thank you. Look forward to talking to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, today's conversation is based on a very intriguing topic that we'll be discussing. It is on Are cross-functional skills a new normal in India Inc.? Now, it has varied aspects when we come on discussing onto this. So, my take and a brief introduction to the topic is something like the business landscape in India has been rapidly evolving, and organizations are constantly striving to stay ahead of the curve. Recent years, there's been a growing emphasis on cross-functional skills as well, in specifically Indian corporate. So, cross functional skills, they refer to the ability to work across departments and functions and have been increasingly important due to the changing nature of work and need for more collaborative and adaptable workforce. So, through this discussion today, we will explore the concept of cross functional skills in Indian corporate context, delve into the reasons behind the rising demand of such skills as well, and we'll also examine the challenges and opportunities associated with developing cross functional skills. So, my first question to you is what, according to you, are some of those cross functional skills, that are being used in organizations, specifically in today's time in the corporate realm, and why are they becoming increasingly important in the India Inc.?
I'd like to start with saying my broad definition of cross-functional skills.
Okay.
I think of them as abilities that allow an individual to work effectively across different functional areas within an organization.
Right.
Okay. And as starters, I would actually distinguish cross-functional skills from being multi-skilled. Okay. Both are incredibly valuable to employees and organizations, but there's a difference.
Right.
All multi-skills are not cross-functional skills unless it enhances the ability of somebody to look at a problem from different functional areas of an organization. And that's the one difference that I want people to be aware.
Okay.
And just to give an example, for example, I'm a candidate who is a bachelor's in statistics. Mm-hmm. And I practice my trade, I build my expertise, and over a period of time, through my work experience in the field of statistics, I develop a specific skill around statistics.
Okay.
Now let's think about it, that over a period of time,
mm-hmm.
I build some adjacent skills around it. For example, I get proficient in market research, I get proficient in data science, I get proficient in machine learning. Those are multi-skills that I am gaining that is increasing my human capital. This is an example of someone acquiring multiple skills mm-hmm. and developing themselves. But let's take my example, right? And this is just to give you a sense of what I mean by cross-functional skills. I'm an HR professional. I studied HR as a student. And over my career, I have practiced what I learned, and that is now my core skill. However, for me to be effective today in my leadership capacity, I need to be fluent in fundamentals of operations, finance, legal, public policy, public relations also to some extent. And that's what I mean by becoming cross-functionally skilled, which means my ability to understand these functions makes me effective to work with these functions in my organization. And that's the difference that I think is important to understand between any skilling versus cross-functional skill. Now, to answer your other question, why is this gaining momentum in the Indian corporates, right?
These days? Yeah.
Right. I believe for any business to succeed in today's time, it's important to be agile, innovative, and customer focused.
Okay.
And when you have a talent base that is cross-functionally skilled, right, you essentially get these outcomes, right? Because when you're cross-functionally skilled, it improves collaboration and communication between different functions. And as an outcome, you have better solutions to your problems because you're looking at it from different lenses. It enhances innovation and creativity. It enhances leadership skills and decision making, and which is essentially what businesses need today. And as companies realize this more and more, therefore, the focus that you see in around cross-functional skills. And I think I can take our example as Amazon. I think we strongly believe in, developing a learning culture, right? To, to for the sustenance of our business.
Okay.
And if you were to look at our leadership principles, we have learn and be curious as one of our leadership principles, which says leaders are never done learning and always seek to improve themselves. So that's one cornerstone of how we think about it, which means we encourage our leaders to continue to learn and improve themselves. For example, any large leader, growing in Amazon is required. We expect them to develop fluency outside of their core domain. For example, I am a person who is in the operations vertical, right? I'm also expected that I get to be fluent in the technology space, in the business space, to grow as a large leader because of what I said. It essentially helps you make better decisions when you're fluent around these domains, right? And as I said, we cultivate leaders who are cross-functionally skilled, and most of our policy, including our internal mobility, is very employee-friendly and enables movement and skill acquisition at a large pace. So I think I totally relate to what you said, saying this is something that is an imperative for businesses. And at Amazon, we already have this embedded into our leadership principles and our ways of working.
Well, that's very heartening to see that, it's not just a policy and a mark of tokenism for organizations, but, Amazon is also one of those who are actually putting into force and putting it into action. So do you feel that, having, becoming an increasing importance of cross-functional skills across the corporate realm is also essential for employees to stay in the game, considering we are into the era of layoffs? So as an employee, I might think if I'm developing cross-functional skills, maybe I am one of those who will not be a part of the herd of layoffs and I'll be retained.
I would say the businesses, the demand for cross-functionally skilled talent is likely to grow in the future as organizations seek to be more agile and innovative. Now, every organization is trying to accomplish more with less. And if you have a cross-functional talent base, you essentially get to do that. Because you could have people flexing their skills and taking up other roles or straddling two roles at the same time, and all of this adds to business value. So that is going to go up. And I wouldn't relate that to the current business environment. I would basically think of it as a first principle to say that the world of today and what we are going to experience in future needs people who are more agile as well. People who can, reskill, de-skill and upskill in line with what the customer needs are.
Is there a specific difference between cross-functional skills and traditional job-specific skills? And how can they benefit employees and organizations today? Because I feel it's a thin line difference, but then we would like to know from the horse's mouth, is there a difference between cross-functional and traditional job-specific skills?
In my mind, job-specific skills have become a threshold criteria to succeed in jobs.
Right.
As organizations look at talent, we expect people to be strong in their domain, as they join the workforce and then cultivate that skill over time. And that is table stakes now. Now, the differentiator is where cross-functional skills come, right? Because as you navigate your career, from there on, you need to expand your repertoire of skills, right? And it could be about building adjacent functional skills of your domain. It could be about building soft skills. It could be about building cross-functional skills, as we were talking about it.
Right.
All of them increases your human capital.
Okay.
And some of the benefits are obvious. For example, if I were to think from an employee's lens, if you're cross-functionally skilled, right, you would gain diverse perspectives. And as you get diverse perspectives, you become more effective in problem solving and executing large-scale projects because you get a 360-degree view into things by being cross-functionally skilled.
Okay.
And as I said, the demand for such talent in the current times and in future is going to grow. So, I think employees who take cross-functional stints and get cross-functionally skilled are going to command a premium when it comes to leadership roles of the future. From an organization perspective, I'll just, think about some very obvious advantages that it gives an organization. One is, when you have a talent base like this, it helps break down functional barriers and improve the overall quality of output. It increases innovation and creativity. And it also makes an organization more agile to responding to the constantly changing environment. So from both angles, employees and from organizations' angles, you see, benefits all around.
Okay. So you just said that, there's going to be a growing demand for cross-functional skills in future. Now, how can employees and organizations prepare for this shift? Because it is something that has not been in the corporate realm for long. It is something that is evolving with time. So now when something is being evolved, how do organizations and employees now prepare for this evolution?
It's an interesting question that, all of us in businesses are thinking about to say, how do you enable that?
Right.
When I think about this this problem, what I think is there are some fundamental barriers which hinder us as organizations. Some are obvious, some are not so obvious. One of the things that hit my mind is there is a tendency for thinking about careers with a myopic lens and a short-term horizon instead of a long-term horizon. And that's one big barrier to this. Because if you don't think about the future and navigate and acquire skills for future, which means you need to move sideways and acquire skills in the near term, right? It is going to hinder building a cross-functionally skilled organization. The other one is, an org culture that discourages risk-taking. Because it's important for organizations to create a culture that allows people to take calculated risks. Because skilling and skill acquisition happens in a much more free space, right? And you need to encourage people to do that.
Right.
The other one is, if you have silos in your organization, you may not create enough opportunities to work with, other functions and learn from other functions. These are all barriers that I see, the obvious ones that we as organizations need to fight against. So what could we do? I think the first thing for me would be building a psychologically safe space for employees to take risks and experiment something new.
Okay.
Unless you create that safe space, skill acquisition is going to be a challenge. You want your employees to take risks, move into unknown spaces, and gather experiences from them.
Exactly. Yeah.
That can happen only if you have a safe environment that encourages that.
And that also encourages them to take risks.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. And the second point I would have is, all of this, for all of this to happen, you need to build a fostering ecosystem of talent practices. For example, how does your organization enable internal movements? Do you have employee-friendly rotation programs? Do you have opportunities for cross-functional projects? Do you have mentoring and coaching for people transitioning? I'm referring to all of this loosely as an ecosystem, but
Right.
it is important that you have an ecosystem of talent practices that enable people to experiment and learn. And the last one is, which is oftentimes not given the right importance, is in most organizations, you have these success stories, a few people who have done great doing this. But we need to amplify such success stories, widely publish it, and use that to encourage the larger workforce to make bolder choices and with a long-term outlook. Those are some of my suggestions for organizations who are thinking on those directions.
No, that's pretty much doable suggestions. It's not something that's in the air and not something that companies can put into force, because actually people hearing this, employers, companies hearing this, they want strategies onto if they're moving onto this path, what all should be there, and a kind of checklist that they need. So very analytically and with examples you've showcased what exactly can be the strategies. Of course, there's some prospective strategies. Once organizations work towards putting it into force, they might have a different realm onto it. In your view, do you think that there is a role of training and development programs, in building or developing cross-functional skills in workplace, or do you think, uh, you know, trainings could be only just on whiteboards and papers, and when it comes into action and when you get into the practicalities, the scenario is completely different? So, I mean, in your view, do you think, there is a role of trainings and development programs in this?
Yes, the short answer is yes.
Okay.
Having said that, I would say while training is an important aspect, experiences and mentoring by peers and senior colleagues are more important for cross-functional skill building.
Okay.
Because that's because fundamentally, I believe in this 70-20-10 model of development, where we think individual gains 70% of their knowledge through on-the-job experiences, 20% from interactions and mentoring with colleagues and superiors, and 10% from training.
Okay.
In a world where knowledge is widely accessible, I would think that the role of companies has to be more around building the right culture and creating learning experiences rather than training that enable skill acquisition. And what do I mean by that? For example, at Amazon, one of our core ways of working to solve a problem is to construct cross-functional teams. So you draw experiences from different functions and put them
Okay.
together to attack a problem, right? And what that gives the person who is involved in a cross-functional team is the great perspectives from different functions that the person carries back after the project back into the daily roles and responsibilities. And we also believe in, creating crucible experiences. And what do we mean by crucible experiences? These are challenges and adversities in the business that we convert into learning opportunities. So you tap a, high potential talent and hand over a challenge to that person to go in and immerse themselves into the challenge. And what that gives us as an organization is the experiences that the talent gets by trying to solve that challenge is incredibly valuable in their development. So I would encourage companies to, think more around how do you create learning experiences, in the day-to-days of the business as against training programs. And we have, in Amazon, we have, plenty of examples of having done this, and including, for example, we have something called a program called Atlas, which is an Amazon technical learning academic academy, where some who is in the non-technology space, but who wants to pursue a career in the tech space. We create a blended learning that includes classroom sessions, on-the-job projects, internships, and assessments, just to enable that person to path them into the technical side of things. And those are curated experiences and programs that we build that enables cross-functional skilling.
But then, are you also giving a hint or, strategizing that internal upskilling should also be a part of initiating such experiences on job? Because, see, if I'm from a non-tech background and if I have an interest to go into the tech background, of course, I would need certain certifications and upskilling courses as well. So, does that mean that, while we are inheriting cross-functional skills, internal upskilling is also need of the hour?
The way I think about it is, we believe the talent is fundamentally is fundamentally enabled to acquire skills. As an organization, we just need to step in and create an experience, right? Whether you call it upskill or a reskilling, we believe we should create an experience. And in this particular case, our role, we think of it as creating the path for somebody who has the aspiration but doesn't have the opportunity to come in and work with us and transition, right? The upskilling and the reskilling is an outcome of that process that we created. And that's why I keep indexing on creating learning experiences, the outcome of which is of value to both the individual and the organization.
And do you also feel that as an employer, there will be certain challenges to, having such cross-functional skills embedded within any organizational realm? If yes, how can they, how can employers or organizations overcome those challenges?
The flip side to cross-functionally skilling, I believe it's in the good interest of both the business and the organization. Now, I'm also being mindful about the talent supply and demand in the market. A cross-functionally skilled employee commands a premium, and therefore the opportunities in the market. Therefore, as we upskill, opportunities for individuals will also increase in the market. But I think of it as a positive challenge, because we want to create experiences that people value, that would increase their retention and engagement. And we are mindful of that.
Through this discussion, we've holistically actually analyzed what exactly are the steps, challenges faced, how can we overcome, what could be the strategies. If we were to take 5 key takeaways from this session, what would that be from your end?
I would think about, understanding the difference between cross-functional skilling versus any multi-skilling.
Okay.
The second one would be, if you're aspiring to create a cross-functionally skilled workforce, creating a psychologically safe workplace is the number one need of the hour.
Okay.
The second one would be creating an ecosystem of talent practices that support your goal is important.
Okay.
Right. And I would end by saying, celebrating small success and doubling down on that, and creating and leaders and managers acting as role models of this transition is important as we go down this path.
Well, we've done over 50 such series, and this discussion proves out to be one of my favorites, specifically because here we did not talk haywire in any of the question that we had and the queries we had. We've actually strategized it to solution. So our aim always is, whenever we're discussing any such HR centric topic, to boil down to solutions. And we have 3 solutions and strategies from your end, Mr. Liju. Thank you so much for joining us, for sharing the experiences, for sharing it in depth along with examples, because it's very important for any person or any layman to understand any concept. Anecdotes and examples are very important coming from the employers and from the management level. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure for us to be speaking with you. And indeed, people who still have questions onto this specific segment, you can tag sir on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, and he'll be happy to solve all your queries. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Sugan. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Same here, sir. Same here. Thank you so much.